Okay, let's unpack this. We're about to delve into a really complex and, frankly, pretty controversial moment in history.
Yeah, it's definitely sensitive territory.
We have in front of us a powerful personal account. It sheds light on events from someone who wasn't just, watching from the sidelines, but was deeply connected.
Right, someone right in the thick of it, essentially.
Exactly. Today, our deep dive focuses on the assassination of Major Basil Huda and the circumstances surrounding it. And our main source here is an audio recording featuring his younger brother, Mr. Duke.
And what's really interesting, I think, is that we get this direct access to a perspective that's often, well, overshadowed or maybe contested in the broader historical
For
narratives.
sure. Mr. Duke's voice gives us a unique lens to look through, doesn't it?
It absolutely does.
And this isn't just any recording, right? It features Mr. Duke Mohammed Nurul Huda Duke, who's a pretty significant national figure himself.
Yeah, his credentials add weight, you could say.
Yeah. He's the president of Isadesh Gori, a national hero, apparently a key figure in the August 15th revolution, a freedom fighter, former MP, and crucially for us today, the younger brother of Major Bazlula.
That family connection is key.
In this recording, he talks quite a bit about the call to ban the Awami League, but woven all through that are his personal experiences and these really serious allegations about his brother's death.
And if you think about the bigger picture, personal narratives like this, they're vital primary sources, aren't they?
How so?
Well, they offer that emotional depth, those specific details you might not get from official documents. They can challenge or, sometimes complement the more official accounts.
So our mission today is pretty clear. We want to understand the key allegations and the perspectives Mr. Duke presents about his brother's death and sort of the wider political context.
And we're drawing directly from his statements in this recording.
Yeah, we'll trace the timeline as he lays it out, look at the alleged circumstances of Major Huda's death after August 15th, and this ongoing pursuit of justice he talks about.
Which, raises an interesting point for you, the listener. How do you actually weigh a deeply personal account like this one against other historical sources, other interpretations?
That's a tough question.
It is. It's a critical part of engaging with complex history, though.
Okay, so Mr. Duke kicks things off by setting a very strong tone. He's emphasizing the importance of, national spirit.
Uh-huh.
He references independence in 47, then 71, the struggle for democracy he sees in 75 and 90, and obviously the big ones, August 15th and August 24th.
Right, these pivotal dates.
And he expresses this feeling that despite all these milestones, true liberation, as he calls it, hasn't really been fully achieved yet.
It's interesting how he frames all those different periods, isn't it? As part of this continuous struggle for true liberation.
Yeah, it suggests a very long-term view on Bangladesh's journey.
Definitely.
Then, someone in the recording, Asifur Rahman, asks a direct question about Major Huda's contributions during the war.
Okay, so getting into his background.
Yeah. Mr. Duke talks about his brother's impressive academics, English honors at Dhaka University, his achievements at the Pakistan Military Academy, and crucially, his immediate decision to join the Liberation War, fought in Sector 2, K-Force.
So establishing him as a significant figure in the Liberation War right from the start, that becomes important context later, I think.
Definitely. But then here's where Mr. Duke's narrative takes a turn. He details this period of, disillusionment after the Awami League came to power between 72 and 75.
The Awami League being, of course, a major political party currently in power in Bangladesh.
Right. And he makes some incredibly serious allegations, things like misrule, suppression of rights.
Okay.
The killing, he claims, of 37,000 freedom fighters and political opponents, the establishment of the one-party system, Baksal.
Baksal, the Bangladesh Krishak Shramik Awami League.
Yeah, that one. And the banning of other political parties' newspapers.
Wow. Okay, those are significant, and I should stress, highly contested claims. It's really crucial for you listening to remember these are Mr. Duke's allegations from the recording, reflecting his specific viewpoint.
Absolutely. We're reporting what he says.
Though his account of sort of widespread disillusionment back then does align with some historical analyses pointing to dissatisfaction with the Awami League's governance. But the scale and specifics he mentions, those are definitely debated by historians.
So according to Mr. Duke, it was this whole environment, this climate that led his brother, Major Huda, and other military officers to rise up.
To overthrow Baksal, he says.
Yeah, and restore multi-party democracy. That's his framing.
So it frames August 15th as a direct response to what they saw as basically a slide towards authoritarianism.
But the story doesn't stop there, does it? Mr. Duke alleges that Sheikh Hasina, the current prime minister, after she eventually returned to power years later,
Ugh.
had his brother arrested and, in his words, unjustly executed.
Right, and he brings up the indemnity ordinance.
Exactly. That legal measure, first issued by Kandakar Mostak Ahmed, later made law under Ziaur Rahman in '79, the one shielding the August 15th people from prosecution.
Yeah.
Mr. Duke claims it was illegally repealed just by a single majority vote in 1996.
And the legality of that repeal, how it was done, that's been a subject of massive legal and political debate ever since. Mr. Duke is very clear he believes it was improper.
No doubt.
The whole debate often revolves around whether you can constitutionally use a simple majority to overturn a law with such huge historical baggage.
Then Mr. Duke makes this truly shocking claim. He states his brother wasn't actually hanged.
This is the core of it, isn't it?
It is. He says he was brutally murdered by being slaughtered in jail, and he alleges Sheikh Hasina was present.
Present. Wow.
Yeah, he calls it an unprecedented act against humanity.
That is an extremely grave accusation. We have to acknowledge the severity of that claim and, the emotional weight it clearly carries from Mr. Duke.
Absolutely. He also talks a bit about Major Huda's later political career after the military, mentions forming the Freedom Party, being Secretary General, his time as an MP for Meherpur II. He emphasizes his brother's integrity, his service.
Right. Draws a parallel with their father, Dr. Riazuddin Ahmed too, I believe.
He does, yeah. Highlighting this family tradition of public service, maybe.
Yeah, it seems aimed at painting a picture of Major Huda as this committed public servant, going beyond just the military stuff, which, in Mr. Duke's eyes, makes the way he died even more tragic.
Later in the recording, someone asks about the physical condition of Major Huda's body when it was returned to the family.
Okay.
And Mr. Duke recounts the difficulties they actually had just retrieving the body from the jail.
So even getting the body back was tense and perhaps suspicious, according to him.
That's the impression. And he describes the body's condition in, well, disturbing detail.
What does he say?
He says the neck looked like it was cut and then stitched up with thick thread, like parachute cord, blood still oozing. And he claims there were none of the marks you'd expect from a hanging. No broken neck, no cuts on hands or feet from the struggle or procedure.
These specific details are absolutely central to his claim that his brother was murdered, not executed by hanging. The physical evidence he describes flatly contradicts the official story.
He goes on to say there's photographic and video evidence, mentions footage shared by Elias Hossein and Pinocchi, supposedly proving his brother was brutally killed.
The existence of that visual evidence and how it's interpreted is likely a major point of conflict between the different narratives here.
He then calls for a proper government-led investigation. Wants those in authority at the time, the IGP, the civil surgeon, questioned. He even mentions reports of unmarked vehicles entering the jail before midnight around that time.
That call for an investigation really underscores his belief that the truth about his brother's death has been deliberately hidden and needs official uncovering.
Moving on slightly, there's a question about legal action taken after August 15th more generally. Mr. Duke mentions there are still pending cases related to what he calls the July-August Revolution, including killings of, well, he claims 2,800 people, and the BDR mutiny case.
So it gives you a sense of the broader legal mess surrounding these historical events. Lots of unresolved cases still lingering.
He says discussions are ongoing with government and non-government groups to pursue these cases, and that includes specifically his brother's alleged murder.
Right.
But he admits government support is pretty crucial to get these things moving forward.
And that need for government support really highlights the political hurdles, the institutional obstacles he and his family are up against.
There's also a quick mention of appealing to Yunus Sahib. Mr. Duke confirms they plan to meet him about it.
Which suggests they're trying to engage influential figures, maybe hoping they can help raise awareness or lend some support.
He also says they're talking to the Attorney General and the Chief Prosecutor, waiting for guidance on when to actually proceed legally, and he's very clear it would be filed as a murder case.
Framing it explicitly as murder is central to their whole legal approach, isn't it? Directly challenging that official narrative of a lawful execution.
Then the conversation gets really specific about the cut marks on the neck. Mr. Duke tries to differentiate between, cuts that might happen in a hanging versus what he saw on his brother.
Right. His detailed description of those injuries is crucial for his argument. He's trying to establish They just weren't consistent with hanging.
He keeps saying the cut was from one side right across to the other with visible stitching. He also claims the post-mortem report was probably concealed. And he draws a parallel with the Sagaruni murder case that's a really well-known unsolved case involving journalists killed in Bangladesh.
Making that comparison suggests he sees a pattern of alleged cover-ups, especially in politically charged killings.
And he emphasizes that local doctors, eyewitnesses, they confirmed the injuries weren't consistent with hanging.
That testimony from local doctors and eyewitnesses, if it could be formally brought forward and verified, would be incredibly significant, wouldn't it?
Hugely. When pushed for specifics on the cut, Mr. Duke clarifies. He says the entire throat was cut right through one end to the other. Only the back was still connected.
That's graphic.
He suggests if you'd removed the stitches, the neck would have been completely severed.
It reinforces that claim of deliberate violence, something far beyond a standard hanging procedure.
He does acknowledge that bandaging in the photos and videos might hide the full extent of the injury.
Which points to the limitations of just relying on that visual evidence. It makes eyewitness accounts and potentially a formal forensic investigation even more critical.
Someone asks if they took photos themselves. Mr. Duke explains that, given the emotional distress and then government pressure afterwards, they didn't systematically document the body themselves.
Understandable given the circumstances.
He thinks the photos and video that do exist were probably taken by other people who were there.
Right. The lack of systematic documentation by the family, while understandable, does make it harder to definitively prove their claims solely through visuals.
He then goes on to detail further alleged persecution the family faced.
Oh, what kind of things?
Destruction of their property, Major Huda's grave being desecrated, the killing of his mother-in-law and brother-in-law,
Good grief.
even the death of his sister's daughter in what he calls a hit and run, plus his own harassment through lawsuits, the family being economically devastated.
Wow. That paints a really bleak picture of a family facing immense hardship and sustained persecution after these events. It adds another really heavy layer to his testimony.
Then another speaker in the recording, Twin Bai, jumps in with commentary.
Okay.
He condemns Sheikh Hasina's alleged actions, expresses solidarity with the Huda family. He talks up the role of those who overthrew Baksal in '75, suggesting they basically led a second liberation of Bangladesh.
Right.
And he also criticizes the BNP, that's the Bangladesh Nationalist Party, another major political force for not, in his view, fully acknowledging the contributions of these figures he calls national heroes.
That reflects a definite viewpoint within some political circles, doesn't it? That August 15th should be seen positively, and those involved deserve more recognition.
Yeah.
And the criticism of the BNP is interesting, suggests maybe some internal debates within the opposition about how to frame these events historically.
Then yet another speaker joins in, echoing Mr. Duke's earlier claims about the alleged killing of 37,000 freedom fighters and opponents under the Awami League from 72-74.
Okay, reinforcing those earlier, very strong allegations.
This speaker goes further, labeling Sheikh Mujibur Rahman the first president, Sheikh Hasina's father, a dictator and murderer, draws a direct parallel with Sheikh Hasina.
Wow, very strong language. Again, these are highly contested interpretations of that period.
He connects August 15th to later events like August 24th, emphasizes it was a collective army and people's effort, claims there were widespread celebrations.
So this speaker clearly views August 15th as a liberation from oppression and stresses the alleged popular support for it.
He also credits President Ziaur Rahman, who came to power after all the post-August 15th shifts, for making the indemnity ordinance law, and suggests the BNP should embrace August 15th and Zia's role.
Right.
Calls for the return and proper honor, Kansan is the word used, for others involved, like Major Dalim, Colonel Rashid, Colonel Nur, Rashid Chowdhury.
Okay.
Mr. Duke then adds his own thoughts on his family's continued struggle, their resilience despite hardship, and he brings up India Delhi's historical and ongoing interference, he claims, in Bangladesh.
The geopolitical angle.
Yeah, references his ancestors resisting foreign powers, even talks about the potential benefits of a totally sealed border with India.
Right.
He finishes by urging people abroad to support the push for justice and a fair election.
So that part broadens the scope quite a bit, linking the family's personal struggle to national sovereignty issues and current political concerns.
Then Meli Hassan Mona asks a really key question. How was Major Huda brought to justice if there was this safe exit, the Indemnity Act for others involved in August 15th?
That's a great question. It gets right to the heart of Mr. Duke's claim that his brother was singled out unfairly.
Mr. Duke explains the safe exit was the Indemnity Act, protecting those involved because, he argues, it was seen as a collective movement.
Right.
And he repeats his claim. The Awami League illegally repealed it with just a single majority, recounts the political climate then, alleging suppression of the opposition.
So he's hammering home that legal argument, the repeal was illegitimate, politically driven.
He clarifies that his brother, Major Huda, despite having visas for other countries, went to Bangkok, Thailand.
Right.
While there, he was apparently invited to the Bangladeshi embassy by the ambassador at the time, Barrister Zulmat Ali Khan, who was from the BNP, interestingly.
Mm-hmm.
But Mr. Duke alleges a military attaché at the embassy, Colonel Hanif Iqbal, tipped off the Bangladeshi government about his brother being there.
So suggesting betrayal from within the embassy, government surveillance leading to his capture.
And then he describes this alleged entrapment. Arrested by Thai police, maybe some Bangladeshis involved too, he says at a store. False accusation of shoplifting.
Shoplifting, seriously.
Yeah. He says Major Huda showed the receipt in court, got released immediately, but then back at his hotel, Thai immigration police grab him, claim the embassy took his passport.
This sounds like a coordinated effort involving both Thai and Bangladeshi authorities, according to this account.
Mr. Duke alleges the Bangladeshi government paid the Thai government huge sums of money, maybe even gave them valuable land in Dhaka for their embassy.
Wow.
All to secure Major Huda's extradition, even though Mr. Duke claims his brother had refugee status.
Refugee status, that's a crucial detail.
Yeah.
If he had refugee status, legally, that should have offered significant protection against being sent back, shouldn't it?
You'd think so.
Yeah. Refugee status under international law generally obliges the host country not to return someone to a place where their life or freedom is threatened. The claim he had this status but was still extradited raises massive questions about the legal process and whether Thailand upheld its obligations.
Mr. Duke mentions the judgment against his brother in Thailand on November 8th, 1988, and then he was handed over.
A very controversial extradition based on this account.
Then there's a question about Major Huda's actual role or deployment on August 15th itself.
Okay.
Mr. Duke says it was a collective army decision. Different people had different roles. He says he didn't discuss specifics with his brother, but he's heard Major Huda was at number 32, that's Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujib's residence.
So providing some context about his alleged direct involvement in the operation based on hearsay within the family or circle.
Then Tuli Islam, the host in the original recording, mentioned something else. That Major Huda and Major Dalim were maybe discharged from service before August 15th under something called Military Law Number 9, allegedly by Sheikh Mujib himself, which caused them distress. Tuli Islam suggests Ziaur Rahman's intentions towards these figures later were maybe unclear. Perhaps his focus was just on rebuilding the nation.
So that introduces a slightly different angle on the lead up to August 15th and maybe questions Zia's later motivations or priorities.
But Mr. Duke pushes back. He clarifies. Dalim and Major Nur were discharged for protesting mistreatment, yes, but his brother, Major Huda, was working a G2 in the Military Intelligence Directorate, the MI Directorate.
Okay, still serving.
And he held the rank of major before August 15th. He explicitly denies the claim Colonel Farouk gave him the rank.
Got it. Clarifying those factual details.
It also mentions both Major Huda and Ziaur Rahman had been PS Principal Secretary to General Osmani, the Liberation War Commander-in-Chief, at different times.
Interesting connection there, highlighting their links to the top brass of the Liberation War.
Then Mr. Duke presents his own understanding of things. He believes a Senate Parashad, a council of war, existed during the Liberation War.
A council of war. What was its goal, according to him?
Aiming for an India-free Bangladesh. And he claims this group, led by Ziaur Rahman, actually orchestrated August 15th.
Led by Zia, that's a strong claim.
He argues Sheikh Mujib favored General Shafullah, so Zia got superseded. And this Senate Parashad then pressured for Zia to be made Deputy Chief of Army Staff.
Okay, so while the exact influence of such a council might be debated historically, Mr. Duke is portraying it as this powerful, ideologically driven group within the military, seeing Zia as their leader and instrumental in August 15th.
He further alleges that after August 15th, Shafullah was sent off as an ambassador. And the Senate Parashad, including his brother and Colonel Rashid, appointed Zia as Chief of Army Staff.
Why Zia?
Because of his seniority, competence, integrity, Mr. Duke says. And he argues this proves Zia's involvement and that he deserves recognition for August 15th.
Okay.
He criticizes the BNP, again, for not acknowledging this, saying they're afraid of being labeled supporters of a murder. He contends Mujib's removal saved the country from Indian domination, saved lives. Mentions Kandakar Mustak's defense advisor was General Osmani. Major Huda was his PS, emphasizing their freedom fighter credentials.
Okay.
Repeats that Zia enacted the indemnity law in '79, seeing it as just, and emphasizes again the widespread army and popular support for the revolution.
So he's really laying out a detailed case for Zia's central role, framing August 15th not just as necessary but positive, a correction of the country's path. It's important for you listening to remember, though, that historical accounts of this period really do vary wildly. Some focus on post-war challenges, others highlight the very issues Mr. Duke raises about 72-75.
He also brings up Colonel Mohudin, says he rescued Zia during the November 7th, 1975 events.
Okay.
At the request, Mr. Duke claims of Major Huda and Major Dalim from abroad, yet Mohudin was later executed by the Awami League government.
So connecting August 15th and November 7th again, suggesting a continuous struggle and highlighting the alleged dire consequences for those involved on that side.
He urges recognition of these historical truths, acknowledgement of Zia's role in both the war and August 15th. Points out his brother and others didn't seek personal gain.
Right.
Miraz then asks about the alleged behavior of the person who actually killed Major Huda and about the pressure to bury the body quickly.
Okay.
Mr. Duke dismisses a claim that the killer ate and celebrated afterwards, calls that old propaganda.
Addressing and refuting a specific grisly detail that's apparently circulated.
But he confirms there was pressure to bury the body immediately. No proper viewing according to Islamic rites, which he says raised suspicion. And he repeats. He and millions of others present are direct witnesses to the cut marks on the neck, inconsistent with hanging. Points to testimonies, reports on YouTube.
That pressure for a quick burial, plus the emphasis on eyewitness accounts of the body's condition, they really bolster his central claim of murder, don't they?
Absolutely. He states again that local doctors who saw the body confirmed the injuries weren't from hanging. Notes the absence of marks where veins are typically cut in executions. Says the neck was clearly slaughtered.
That alleged confirmation by local doctors adds yet another layer to his account.
Miraz then asks about pursuing justice internationally, like the International Criminal Court, or seeking international support.
Right, looking beyond Bangladesh.
Mr. Duke mentions giving a press conference using various channels to raise global awareness.
So, trying to broaden the fight beyond just national avenues.
He says they've contacted legal experts, including the Attorney General and Chief Prosecutor back home, but he explains while they're pursuing it personally, the state has to be involved.
Why is that?
Because of the nature of the case, you'd need to bring government officials from that time as witnesses.
Ah, okay. That reliance on state cooperation really highlights the massive power imbalance, the challenges they face with such a politically explosive case.
He mentions other pending cases against Sheikh Hasina in special courts. International tribunals refers to the Shapla, Chattar, and BDR cases. Expresses hope their case will also get heard eventually. And he urges listeners, home and abroad, to speak out against what he calls the brutal killing.
Connecting their personal quest for justice to these broader legal and political efforts around alleged past human rights issues.
Then Joel Traveler speaks up, identifies as younger, learning history from family and books, and expresses confusion.
About what specifically?
About the different portrayals of Ziaur Rahman's role in August 15th.
Ah, yeah. That reflects a really common challenge, doesn't it? Trying to grapple with complex history where you've got multiple narratives, conflicting interpretations, especially across generations.
Mr. Duke responds directly. Says his account of Zia's involvement is based on reality, not just books. Repeats the claim his brother's extradition was a conspiracy.
Right.
Regarding Zia, he points out, multi-party democracy was restored after August 15th, after the one-party Baksal rule. He suggests Zia was involved in that positive change.
So he's tackling those conflicting narratives head-on, grounding his view in what he sees as facts and logical deductions.
He asks a rhetorical question. If Zia wasn't involved in overthrowing Mujib, why weren't the guys who did it court-martialed immediately?
A pointed question.
Reminds the listener, Kandakar Musak was in power right after August 15th. Zia was senior to General Shafiullah. Why was Shafiullah made army chief over the senior Zia? Suggests, something was going on there.
Underlying dynamics.
Recounts that on August 24th, 75, Shafiullah was sent abroad, and Zia did become chief of army staff under President Mustak. Asks, why would Zia accept that position if he was against August 15th?
These are all arguments designed to chip away at the narrative of Zia's non-involvement, suggesting his actions afterwards point to at least tacit approval or even explicit support for the coup.
He argues Zia deserves credit for overthrowing Baksal, says the BNP's reluctance to own this is a mistake, repeats that Zia enacted the indemnity law in '79, showing his stance, underscores the widespread support for the revolution, suggests November 7th was a continuation of that same spirit. Repeats the story of Colonel Mohudin rescuing Zia at the request of Huda and Dalim, highlighting how interconnected it all was.
Right.
Emphasizes his brothers, other freedom fighters, joined the war responding to Zia's declaration of independence. Contrasts the alleged oppression under Mujib's Baksal with the liberation that followed, crediting the Senaparishad and Zia.
Okay.
And concludes, Zia accepting the army chief job under Musak is further proof of his involvement, because he wouldn't have done it if he condemned August 15th.
So a very comprehensive argument from Mr. Duke for Zia's central, and in his view positive, role in the events of August 15th, framing it as a necessary liberation.
Towards the end, another speaker suggests checking Nur's interview and book for details on how the Sheikh Mujib family actually died.
Okay, pointing to another source.
Suggests maybe some public figures might, ethically distance themselves from endorsing the killings themselves, even while justifying ending Baksal rule. Recommends Nur's account for specifics, mentions grenades being involved.
That introduces potentially another source for listeners to explore and suggests a more nuanced take is possible, separating the political act of overthrowing Baksal from the specific violence against the family.
Okay, so as our deep dive wraps up, we've heard this incredibly intense, very personal testimony from Mr. Duke.
It's a lot to take in. What really stands out to you from his whole account?
For me, it's just the unwavering conviction in his voice.
Yeah.
About the alleged illegal execution, the brutal murder, as he calls it, of his brother, Major Huda.
Yeah.
His absolute insistence that it was slaughter, not hanging, and the direct accusations he makes against Sheikh Hasina, against the Awami League. It's powerful stuff.
Absolutely.
And it's all set against this incredibly complex backdrop, isn't it? The history, the politics around August 15th, and everything that came after.
That intertwining of deep personal tragedy with huge political upheaval is definitely a key takeaway. Mr. Duke's story really drives home how profoundly these historical events hit individuals' families.
And how those wounds keep shaping how people see the past, even now.
Exactly. And the ongoing impact.
It's also just incredibly valuable, I think, to hear a firsthand account like this from someone so closely connected.
For sure.
Mr. Duke offers a perspective you probably won't always find in, say, mainstream history books. It certainly challenges some common assumptions.
And this whole deep dive really reminds you, doesn't it, of the challenges involved in trying to reconcile different versions of history, especially when personal experience and political loyalties are so deeply tangled up in it all.
Yeah.
So it makes you think, what responsibility do you, as someone listening to this, have to seek out multiple perspectives to critically evaluate these historical claims?
That's the big question, isn't it? Hopefully this deep dive has given you some food for thought.
Yeah.
We definitely encourage you to do your own research on the events we've discussed, look at different sources, try and form your own informed opinions.
Yeah, this conversation is really just scratching the surface.
Absolutely. This is just the beginning.